Welcome back to Random University, you guys, where I am learning new tricks, and I also want to take today's episode to a new setting. So, first trick here. Nice. Well, got the drink. Now, to the next location. Well, I ended up a little bit off the target, but nonetheless, I'm in a different location. But today's episode, we're going to talk about Snow White and the Seven Hobos. So, the intro, next.
Optimus, maximize!
Rifty.
Today we're going to talk about Snow White and the Seven Hobos, which, yes, is just the new Snow White, which quite frankly they changed to something that I wasn't expecting. And, you know, it's based off an original story back in the 1930s, which now is played by, I believe it's Rachel Zegler. She's 22. Hey man, she's a bad looking chick, but she doesn't quite fit the profile of playing Snow White, if you know what I mean. Now, also, the thing about playing Snow White, I mean, obviously, you know, having the skin white as snow would be one of those things I understand that like some people would be upset about. So the miscasting here is one of those things I guess I can understand, considering like that was kind of the origin, is that she was pale. And for whatever reason, a lot of people thought this pasty girl was really hot because quite frankly, she was stalked, which was one of those things that Rachel Zegler said, but a lot of people kind of got upset about. But I mean, isn't it kind of creepy to think like you just got a prince that's like over the wall and he just hears some chick singing like, oh, is that a woman? Like, yeah. And he just got really excited, jumped over the wall and just started like hanging out. Just like, hey, what's up? Like, that was not creepy at all. Like, that was perfectly normal. Some stranger on a horse would just hop your fence and decide like, hey, let's go ahead and build a garden and just hang out. That was weird to me. And then also Snow White, when she slept, the seven dwarves would literally watch her sleep. And it's like, dang, how peaceful can you be? I mean, she must be freaky as hell or something, because she's just sitting there sleeping, yawning peacefully, and you got seven weird faced, bozos sitting around like breathing down your neck. I mean, that's the thing about it. Like, that's what's weird about this new Snow White. They replace the old, lovable, adorable, mentally challenged and deranged and creepy looking, punch drunk munchkins to what they are now. And that's just apparently just seven grown men and women that are just magical creatures. It doesn't make any sense to me. None of it. Now, yes, there are plenty of people out there that believe she should play the Wicked Witch of the West instead. And if you look at some of her clips and some of the movies she's played in, you could possibly understand that comparison and crossover. I could see it personally. She could do that. But she's not. And you have to accept that now she's Snow Brown and that they're yet the Seven Hobos. So it's a completely different movie. It's 2023 now. So things have changed and Disney is bombing. So quite frankly, they're just going to throw another bomb out there and see how bad the damage is, just to see how much debris they can possibly create for their own company, just to see how many more people they'll have to fire just to justify keeping the company open and not selling it out to somebody else. Just like eventually they're probably just going to start selling out Disney to prostitutes and hookers out on the street. Now I'm just being a little facetious, but the bottom line is Disney's struggling. They're literally firing people at ESPN at this point because they're making such bad movies. Like, that's terrible. To imagine like people who go watch your movies are now thinking, hey man, I had to come on TV and I had to talk good about these terrible movies that made me lose some of my favorite colleagues and coworkers that I used to work around for the last couple of years. That's unfortunate. A very, very unfortunate deal. I'm having to think really hard about the last time I really watched a Marvel movie, in which I watched probably 80% of the previous Marvel films when you had phase 1, 2, and 3. Now that they moved on to the next phase, things have gotten pretty cruddy. And I haven't enjoyed very much of any of it. I'm pretty sure it was Multiverse of Madness, which was the last one I watched. I enjoyed WandaVision. WandaVision to me was really good. I actually did enjoy that. But Multiverse, poo. It was very bad to me. Like overall, there was some great, destruction, some cinematics. The killing scenes were absolutely epic. Sounds dark, but they were. I mean, watching what happened to poor Jim Halpert, I mean, that was rough. Nobody wants to see the man gets turned into spaghetti. I mean, I know he's a Stretch Armstrong, but still, that was a rough way to go. But needless to say, the movies have been not good, and the reviews on all the other ones have been so bad that it's turned me off from going to watch them. And it's also coming from people I've trusted to watch these films over years, and people like close to me that usually have good reviews on movies, and they're just like, it's just not hitting. It's just not hitting like that. But back to Snow Yellow and the 7 people who have no idea why they're actually in this film. One of them, yes, but 6 of them, they're probably wondering why they were casted for this role. I mean, this isn't about color this time. This is just simply about like physical, demographics. I mean, this is just simply about the fact that this is about the chance for the little man to shine, and they took that moment away. Like, I understand their gripe here. It's just like if they took a black superhero away and made him whatever else that we had a very rare opportunity to do and take care of. You know what I'm saying? Like, they took this moment from the little man, and quite frankly, that's really upsetting. And I understand why people would be pissed about that. I just think that, this is a moment that we should all reflect on and realize, like, maybe we should start over, like Sonic the Hedgehog. Or Sonic the Hedgehog, where, they looked at the trailer and it was like, no, not my Sonic. Just like people are sitting around like, not my Final Fantasy 16, which pisses me off because I played the demo and I thought it was incredible. So people who are hating on Final Fantasy 16, you can eat dirt. I don't care. That movie or that game is, which some people are saying, yes, it's just an extremely long movie because of all the cutscenes. But no, I like the fact that the game was different. You have to have different things in life to experience better outcomes sometimes, or just something that's more refreshing. But going back to Snow Yellow, this isn't the same thing. Snow Brown isn't going to make things better. This is one of those things you keep the same. Unlike video games, you should alter games over time because people rehash and replay them over and over and over and over and over again. Now, movies, people like movies to be rewatched over and over and over and over and over again, just because they like how the movie is usually the outcome is. If you have an alternate ending, so be it. If not, just let it be. Let it be. Let it be that. Sorry, it's cold in here, so I decided to put the same old hoodie back on. Yes, I know it's the same old hoodie. Don't worry, I do wash it. I mean, it gets washed. I just don't want to wash it all the time. I mean, because quite frankly, this isn't the kind of material you want to keep throwing in crappy washers. And here where I live, the washers aren't always, well, they're not good. They're the cheapest of cheap. And, well, until I upgrade, until this, channel takes off, please, as a matter of fact, please hit that button below. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Help me get a washer. It would be great. Though I don't need it now. I'd probably need it in about a month or so. But still, I'm just kidding. But either way, help me get that washer. It'd be great. But once again, I keep losing track here, so I apologize once again. So just hear me out. Back to Snow White. Needless to say, Snow White, Rachel Zegler, she's been going through some things. A lot of people seem to be very unhappy with her because, well, she does have a little bit of a past where she's, posted some things. Some stuff that people might not have liked so much. Some things that weren't very PC. Well, they were, I don't know. It was mean. Very mean. Now look, I have listened to probably about 3 interviews with Rachel Zegler in them, and she's been quite unlikable in all 3 of them. And it's unfortunate because for her to play a character like Snow White, somebody who's so beloved, someone who's so cared about, someone who's so revered, especially by her peers, the 7 dwarves, the prince who hopped over the wall, everybody in that movie loved her deeply, except for the witch who tried to poison her and succeeded. She killed Snow White. Snow White died. I mean, she didn't make it, except she did in the very last moments of the movie where the creepy stalker prince decided, hey man, apparently he had the magical lips of destiny and he was able to revive her from the dead. It was some magical stuff like Romeo and Juliet, except, they lived. and they didn't die like in the Leonardo DiCaprio version. It was interesting movie, to say the least. A bunch of songs in the beginning, some wood chopping, and like I said, you got the prince over there creeping on the castle or wherever she was, and then she moves off into the woods and has all these nice cool creatures after her, and then the dwarves show up and they're out there sniffing her pussy in the middle of the night while she's trying to sleep, and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then on top of that, they don't want Rachel to be Snow White. They don't want her to be the one dancing around the house, thirst trapping for all the dwarves. They were sitting around there just chasing tail all day long. That's the only thing they were doing, is walking around like, man, you see Snow White? You see Snow White? Boy, she looking good, ain't she? They were doing it all day. If you're talking about creepy people, that house was littered with 7 extremely creepy individuals, which, like I said, I mean, dopey, sleepy, all of them happy, clumsy, it don't matter. They're all in good spirit looking, but there are also some creepy looking people. Sometimes when you see something that drains you or triggers you, and you feel the need to comment immediately or respond back immediately, without getting the context or revisiting your knowledge of the situation or the topic at hand. Well, before I decided to finish this video, I went back and rewatched Snow White, just so I can go back and actually gain the context I needed for this conversation. And what I discovered was quite something. So I came up with a better synopsis of this film in general. Just to think about it, like from the start, Snow White, she was immediately like thirst singing out there by the well, out there begging for a husband, out there just begging for some man to be there for her, because she had a terrible life. Her life was pretty cruddy. I mean, her mom was the queen. I got that wrong earlier. So it was the queen, not the wicked witch. No witch, just the queen, who was evil. And she had magical powers and could create nasty potions, which she eventually did for the apple, which led to the end. So, I mean, there's that. But either way, she was out there thirst singing. And then you had the prince, who just happens to be on the other side of the wall, and he happens to hear some singing. He's like, oh my God, that must be a woman. That sounds like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And so this crazy MRFer decides he's actually going to hop the fence or jump the brick wall and go over there and just pop up right next to her in the well. And was just like, hey, how's it going? And decides he wants to start singing to her and silhouetting and out there and, just putting the speaker by the ear and doing the whole lovey-dovey. And eventually, Snow White runs away and pretends like she don't want anything or have anything to do with him. And then she just, closes the door. End of scene. So later on, you see the queen, and she's going on and she's doing her business. And obviously the queen has went about what she does. And she decides she's going to be evil and send out a henchman to go kill Snow White. Meets her out in the woods, doesn't kill her, and spares her life. She freaks out, goes out into some trippy woods. The woods was extremely trippy, really weird. She started seeing hands and monsters and stuff like that before she just passes out of fear. And then all these cute, cuddly creatures come up out of the woods, and all of a sudden they're just like, oh man, this is a nice looking chick out here. She's so sweet looking. So they decided they're going to take care of her, and well, they end up following her back to this house that they found, which obviously was the dwarves' house. I mean, they were just out doing what they do, which is, I guess, work 24/7 like some underpants gnomes, which I guess is really kind of where the underpants gnomes came from. But yeah, they were working 24/7. So they were working a lot. And needless to say, they came back and saw that their house was clean and all this random stuff that bothered them. And you got all the different types of dwarves. Not going to get into that. And needless to say, they started dancing, having a good time. They met Snow White. Everybody kind of grew to just really start simping over her 24/7. And they really enjoyed her presence. And she really did illuminate a very feminine presence. That's the one thing you did notice in this hour and 20-minute movie, is that she was a very soft-spoken and very kind, a very ditzy woman, apparently, because in the end, she gets duped by the queen, who turned herself into an just an evil old bitch. And either way, you got the animals who clearly know, like, hey, there's something up with this chick. Like, she's evil, and this apple, it doesn't smell right, because, well, we're animals and we can snuff out that stuff. And Snow White, with her ditzy ass, decided she was just like, oh my God, I'll take the apple. You seem sick and you seem upset. Come inside. I mean, she just got baited extremely hard. It was sad. And then she obviously bit the apple, died. She dies. I can't emphasize that enough. Snow White dies in this movie, and it is some sad stuff. Like watching them animals weep, and the cartoon characters, and the birds, and the worms, and the deer, and all them. And that's actually bypassing the fact that the dwarves have already got wind of the situation, because the animals saw what was happening. They were trying to get them back before she bit the apple, because they could clearly see that she was going to bite it. And she did, and bit the dust in the end. Sorry this is dragging on so long. But either way, that's what happened. And that's what you got for that original Snow White movie. They end up going to the top of the hill where the queen is up there she shook this boulder with a stick. I mean, this thing was huge. And nonetheless, I guess it eventually got struck by lightning. The ground broke. She fell who knows how far. And the boulder fell down her direction. And the dwarves in the end just look over the balcony or look over the cliff, and they probably saw something very gruesome at the bottom of it. Very bad. Probably something like from Midsummer, something real ugly. And that's pretty much the movie. They cry their asses off, and it's sad for like the final 10 minutes. And they bury her. They don't bury her because they couldn't. They just loved looking at her so much. They just couldn't bear to, let her go. They were going to watch her body rot right here on Earth. And I guess it wasn't really that long that she was in that glass case. I mean, I heard it was up to a year, but she didn't decompose at all. I mean, so she must have had some good stuff, because the prince shows up out of nowhere because apparently he had been looking for her. So I guess he did kind of stalk her, but it wasn't as much of a stalker as he was made out to be. That was overblown. He wasn't a stalker. He just, and there probably wasn't a whole lot of pretty women out there. It seemed like there was pretty empty. So I kind of feel his pain. That's tough. And, that's the thing he had to deal with. And he kissed her, and she came back to life like nothing had ever happened. I guess she just hit pause, and she just returns, and everybody else is happy, and she just hops on a horse. Like, she's not completely traumatized from the fact that she ate this apple and died and bit the dust. And what happened to, the old woman that had poisoned her? Did anything happen? Like, how did she even end up where she was? She just literally follows dude back to his kingdom, and I guess they live happily ever after. Now, quickly back to the original thing we were talking about, the modern day Snow White, which, we were talking about how people aren't very happy with the product and what it's going to turn out to be. Just like I'm going to show you here as far as, the photos that were leaked.
Of history. Maybe this'll make money. I severely doubt it. I can't think why. It's just something I can feel in my water.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
I mean, I don't even know what these people are after, but whatever it is, I'm sure they'll claim it's for medicinal use only. And let's not forget, these pictures were so awful and the backlash was so swift that a Disney spokesperson started telling people that they were fake. They weren't fake. They were embarrassing, though. Even given the benefit of the doubt, someone at Disney saw it, thought, well, they're trash. They can't be ours. We definitely put out something higher quality than that. What do you mean they're ours?
Earlier I mentioned how Snow White doesn't match her actual physical comparison to the movie back in 1937, I believe. That's irrelevant to me. Doesn't really matter. I could care less about the actual pasty white or whatever. And if that's racist, I'm sorry. I don't mean it to be that way. Just really pale. But either way, they didn't cast it to be that way. If the character who's playing her happens to be a good person, great. But I don't really expect any of them to be good people. But there are people who are upset about it.
We will not allow you to take away our dignity!
And the story goes back further than that. So what do you deserve by taking a story, ripping out the heart of it, and putting you in it?
But I saw the logo and I went, that's my name, and I cried my eyes out.
In an act of complete self-obsession, because you think that the rest of the world just sits there, desperately hoping that they can see you on screen. For some reason, you seem to think that you're the personification of everybody.
It's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
I mean, there's egocentric, and then there's whatever that is. Oh, she's not going to be after a boy. She's going to be sad and miserable on her own.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
She's a prince without a king, so she's not going to have a lineage to pass down the royal bloodline through.
Now, whether the costumes look bad or the actress who's playing Snow White seems to come off a little self-conceited, that's not the biggest thing to me. She's only 22. She might grow off to be a great person. I mean, there's a lot to work with there. But just saying. I just don't think that's really the biggest deal to take here. But what I do find problems with modern movies is the fact that there's not a whole lot of substance with the characters and the development of the plot. So if that's going to be an issue, they don't seem to make very good female characters anymore. The female leads usually blow because they all have to be the strong female character, and they all suck. If they're going to make a whole bunch of Brie Larson clones, even though I kind of like Brie Larson in that role, but everybody else seemed to really, really hate her. But the overall strong woman role is not played very well, and quite frankly, it's really outdated. It's really outdated. And when I heard this part of this interview, I was a little upset.
You're bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
So naturally, after hearing everything, I decided I just need to go ahead and watch the trailer. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't just play the trailer. You're going to have to just deal with my head being in the way, so I can avoid copyright issues. Yeah.
Slave in the magic mirror. Come from the farthest space. Through wind and darkness, I summon thee.
Okay, this trailer hasn't been on very long, and I can already tell you that this movie is 20,000 times different than the original movie that was already made. So this is already looking like it's going to be 45 minutes too long, and there's going to be probably a lot of dead time. I mean, the original Snow White movie didn't have that much going on. Half the movie was them dancing and singing and cleaning the house.
My queen, what would you like to know? Tell me.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
Lips red as the rose, hair black as ebony, Snow White.
The crown is mine.
You know when they made Snow White and like the Seven Huntsmen or whatever, and it was completely different from Snow White? They already made a different Snow White movie. Like, why do they have to do it again? I think remaking this one would have been okay, at least to me. To me, I would have been okay with remaking Snow White. I mean, they did it with Lion King and Beauty and the Beast and whatnot. I thought that was fine. Some of them it was okay with. They weren't always great, but I thought it was okay. And I don't know why they're going to have to completely reinvent this one. I know it's an old movie. I know it is dated. It's a dated movie, but you can still make this and keep a good message and a very positive thing going for it. I don't know about this. Like, I get why white men would be mad, or at least upset about some of these things. Just because the original story ended, obviously, with, the great white, prince decided he was going to come in and lay this, stoic, or not stoic, that's a terrible word, but this enchanted kiss amongst this princess. And, she was going to be brought back to life. And I guess for whatever reason, the white man is demonized to the point where obviously that is impossible. So we can't even promote a movie, no matter if it's fairy tales or not, that shows something to that degree. Like, unfortunately, they have been demonized to the point to where it's like, we're not showing that because that is stupid. In conclusion, I definitely think this movie is going to blow. They're going to screw it up royally. They're going to lose a lot of money. Once again, it's going to be budgeted over $200-something million. They will be lucky if they break even. Once again, they'll probably cost more people their jobs at ESPN. They'll probably fire Stephen A. Smith this next time. I mean, it might cost them that big. At some point in time, they got to stop making these bad movies. And I know it's just a trailer, and I know that the movie isn't out yet, and it could be great. But quite frankly, this is the same trend that they've been doing for like the last 3 years. And the reviews have been pretty bad on majority of these movies. Good movies and good stuff has come out in the meantime. But this just seems to be the trend with Disney. They seem to really be, pushing a narrative, as they would say. So, once again, I'm done with this for today. I hope you liked the content. Please like, share, and subscribe once again to the channel if you've enjoyed the content today. I needed to get this video wrapped up a little bit sooner, so I'm going to try to get some shorter videos out to you. Thanks for the support once again. Really trying to get to 800 subscribers. That's the short-term goal. Trying to get to 1,000. That's the next goal, and then obviously more beyond that. But either way, hope you have a great day. See you soon.